Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series with me, your host, Gyle. Now, I know you're all desperately mourning the loss of the Rise of the Immortals trophy as that is now concluded, but not to worry, there's plenty more action coming up in the near future, including one tourney which I was desperately trying to remember the name of, but failed hard at the end of my previous cast of the Grand Final, which many of you may remember. I do apologise, it's Red Rage's 2012 end-of-year tourney, so do look out for that. The link is in the description to this video below. You set up a very professional page if you want to find out more details about when that's on, so you look out for costs, or if you want to sign up and have a go, all the info is there. It's all very nicely put together, so apologies for him for not getting that right the first time. On to other matters. Many of you may already have seen the link in the lobby system or have seen it on the forums to the Indiegogo project set up by Zep. Now, this is hugely exciting. It's a project called Galactic War. If you're not familiar with it, it is a metagame mod concept that was originally thought up back in the GPG days when Supreme Commander Forged Alliance was still being supported obviously by them before FAF started. But as far as I'm aware, it never really got off the ground. It never got very far into development. Well, Zep has now started up his own kind of Kickstarter-style project. He only wants 3,000 euros. Currently, we're around, at the making of this video, around the 750 euro mark, so there's still a ways to go, but there are 34 days left on the clock. In a nutshell, if you're not sure what Galactic War is, essentially it is a large galactic map with many different planets, and you use Supreme Commander games, Forged Alliance games, to battle with other players, comp stomp, survival AI maps, all the different things that you can do in FAF, basically, you would use to try and win planets over for your faction. So you'd be playing for a faction, a race, which is hugely exciting, really adds a new dynamic to the game. I'm very excited about it. But like I say, unless we get backers, it's not going to happen. So the link is in my description to this video. Please go and check it out and donate if at all possible. There are some nice rewards, of course. I went for the 30 euro bracket, and if you do that, Zep has promised to allow you to name a planet on the map. How cool is that? Come on, you can't pass that up. So get in there and get donating, guys. Anyway, on to today's game. This was a match sent in to me by TA for Life once again, because he's my own personal legend, my replay guru. Absolutely taking control, as always, ear to the grindstone, and passing out the replays to all of us casters who are too lazy to look out for them ourselves. So thank you to him. And this is going to be between Luzen and Zlord. So let's head on over to Open Palms and see how they get on. Now, I've got to say, not too familiar with this guy, Zlord, but if this replay is good enough to TA to think it needs to be casted, he obviously holds his own, and if he does that against Luzen, he must be pretty damn good. So we will wait with bated breath and eager anticipation to see what he does. So he's down here in the southern nook, and he's going green Cybrin. Now up here in his customary teal, of course, it's the one and only Luzen, Rise of the Immortal Trophy finalist and Imber Cup 2 champion. He's going in his regular teal, he's UEF. And as you will notice immediately, probably rather conversely, he's got factories lining up against mass points. Now, this is of course because this is they're playing the balance testing mod. So this is the unreleased patch. This isn't current version. This is the up and coming version, which of course is one of the many wonderful things you can do on FAF. So there's a pretty significant bonus you get from joining factories now to mexes. So I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's now 7.5% mass bonus by joining a factory to a mass point. And when you tech up that mass point to a tech through, I believe it goes up to 25%, which is a huge discount. So it really is worth it. And you can see he's doing exactly the same thing here. You've got 4 factories queued up, and he's sticking them all around one mass point, making the absolute most use he can out of it, which is really cool. And I love it because you're going to see a whole new set of builds coming out of all the different players. It really gives you a bit of, you know, versatility in the game rather than just shoving a whole bunch of mass storage around mass points, which was always the thing to do. You're going to see a whole bunch of different builds. That's very exciting. So anyway, early Mech Marine came down for Luzen just at the edge of this nook. Nearly took out this engineer, but he had a backup Mantis there from Zlord. He doesn't allow his engineers just to chill by themselves. They have their own private escorts, which is very nice, I think. So, which is all good. But Luzen seems to be working on the mech marines quite heavily to begin with. He's got 2 here with a Snoop, the land scout for UEF, and another 2 here. So he's got a pretty standard build order going on. We've got some bombs coming off. The first volley miss is the first group of engineers, probably very nicely dodged, but he does pick up a second group of engineers further back before getting shot out of the sky by a interceptor from Luzen. So nicely done there. But so not entirely wasted, that initial bomber, getting some work done. But of course, remember, those bombers cost a lot more than they used to, so you really do need to make them count if you're going to go for those early bombers. Quite a lot of air fighting going on initially in the early stages of this battle. And Zlord making use of the hydrocarbon, linking up his factories and air factory to that, getting as much out as possible. Not making quite as much use as of the mass points as Luzen is. We will see if that makes too much difference, or if that makes any real difference later on in the game. It's probably going to be too early to tell any significant advantage early on. You can see these little hit squads I was talking about earlier, little mech marines and land scouts coming out, flanking around both sides. So very nice combination there, although one land scout doubled back very unadvisedly and promptly got wasted by a whole group of Mantis. You've got some bombers coming in now, working on this little forward group. And of course, Mantis, wonderful unit that they can assist building. They're promptly going to rep up that engineer, help deal with the damage that he suffered. And there's a mass point going to go down here for Zlord from this little 2-man mech marine hit squad from Luzen. And they're now going to fan out, just looking for any rogue engineers that they can, working on those mass points. So that's nice work. You've got a little hit squad coming down here. However, there is a Mantis there. Some very nice little mech marine micro going on there, dodging some of the Mantis shots, but it's not going to work out for them. They do pick up the engineer, so that is going to hamper him picking up the next 2 mass points, which is incredibly annoying. But they're not going to get the best of that Mantis, although that mech marine nearly got the job done, taking it down to around 28 to 29 hit points. Very nicely done indeed. And we're now getting to the kind of steady phase of land spam from Luzen. He's got a whole bunch of strikers, or they Lobos, strikers, coming in around the right-hand side. They are going to run directly into Zlord's ACU, so they're probably not going to get a great deal of hurt inflicted on his opponent. Zlord now shooing him off, manages to save that mass extractor just for now, although Luzen is trying to get a little run by and put some distance between him and the ACU. Of course, you can do that because I think the T1 units are quite a bit faster than the ACU, but they are going to run into some backup Mantis. I don't think they're going to get anything done there. Or there is an engineer running into the fray, and that tank gets out on 4 hit points. Might pick up this Mantis, doesn't manage it, just goes down at the end. So we've got an engineer landing up on the top here for Zlord. He's got queued up some factories. He's planning to take that upper ridge. And over here on the left-hand side, Luzen has managed to snag that. So it's all looking pretty even at the moment. The standard field is split as you would expect it to be, as it has been so many times before on this match. Right down the middle, you've got Zlord's ACU on this side and Luzen on this side. So it really couldn't be more even. If we take a look at the ecos, and I have finally got that mod in where you can see the amount that's been reclaimed. So he's on 2,300, 2,400 Zlord. Luzen's around a lot less reclaim actually in mass. Zlord's doing a lot better on the reclaim. In terms of mass, it's pretty hard to see. It looks like it's around the 50-something mark for Zlord, and Luzen is around the, if I slow this right down, around the 75, so he might have reclaimed a lot less, but he seems to be doing better on economy all rounds. Let's get that back up again. Interesting. Obviously, Zlord tried to get a factory up and running here right on the corner to take this side plateau, but he hasn't managed it. That's been scouted out. The engineer that was obviously building it has gone down, and those strikers are going to finish off that structure without any real difficulty. But a pretty serious engagement potentially happening over here on the right-hand side. There's a whole lot of Lobos and strikers massing for Luzen, with just a handful of Mantis over here for Zlord. He does have his ACU, but he's way over here. He's probably going to lose those Mantis, although there's a whole group of reinforcements being ferried in with their own personal escort. So actually no, he's not. He's taking it right up here to the plateau, which somehow he managed to lose. He only had one engineer working on the right hand side, so that is why he has had one mass point capped and the other one has been built on by Luzen. Has he got an engineer in the mix? Yes, he has. He's got three engineers in there, so he can secure that without any trouble whatsoever. Well, that's a pretty serious run by happening down here from Luzen. But Zlord has a very serious amount of Mantis. Of course, very underrated Cybran, I think, these days. Mantis, since their rescaling, they are back down to normal cost, so definitely taking full advantage of that. We're actually up to T2 land now. We've got and T2 air as well, so the game is progressing very, very quickly indeed. We've got a whole lot of hoplites out, and he's working on Corsairs, and we do also have T2 for Luzen. He's going to be getting that mass bonus as well. That's currently on T2 as well, so I forget exactly what it is. It's probably somewhere in the region of a 15% mass bonus he's getting there. Correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember the exact amounts. Bomber over here on the right for Luzen, trying to get some work done, but promptly gets snapped out of the sky by a combination of this interceptor and a couple of the mobile anti-air. But pretty serious engagement happening over here on the left hand side for Luzen. A whole lot of strikers and Lobos once again managing to take down a hydrocarbon, but not probably going to push their luck too much, considering they're up against superior tech down here in the form of the rocket bots, and they're going to be able to hold them up. Although one of them does get picked off with some nice shells from a Lobo just as that little wave is departing. Manages to get a couple of shots off, so very nicely done indeed. And Luzen just not wanting to leave this plateau alone on the right hand side, wanting to harass him as much as possible. It's a good 3 mass points up there, so it's not a bad call at all. We've got a little fortification going up in here in the middle, and we've got some field engineers from Zlord. If we take a look at what he can see, he is aware that that's all there. He's obviously got some reasonable coverage from these interceptors, but doesn't want this tactical missile launcher to go up anytime soon. Doesn't want Luzen to start sniping mass points or indeed making any play for the comm, although he'll need more than one. Obviously, I think it's going to need at least 3 for the unupgraded comm. And once again, a pretty significant force on the left hand side now, complete with shield protection, is going to make a little push on the left hand side. Personally, I think Luzen should go right round the back and take out some of these. He could do some serious damage at this point, but there's a pretty serious Mantis push up here at the top right as well for Zlord. So this game very much pound for pound at the moment, play by play, and Zlord wanting to push any advantage he has on one side when Luzen commits on the other. So while we had this kind of spread running down the middle, the map is kind of now bisecting vertically down the middle, although this is a pretty significant force, and this is where all those hoplites that we saw earlier are stationed, and that's going to give him some nice range. And unfortunately for Luzen, he's coming in single file here, and that's not what he wants to do at all. He's just going to get picked off at range. These Mantis just going to make a little run by trying to get around the left-hand side. If he can pick up this group of engineers, that'd be quite a significant loss for Luzen. See where Luzen's running at reclaim now. He's on 3,800. Zlord is on 6,700. So Zlord doing a lot better on the reclaim front. It's quite hard to tell exactly where they are, but those engineers now in trouble. They do manage to spam up at least one T1 PD plasma cannon. Another one looks like it's going to get down as well, but a whole lot of engineers going down, almost all of them in fact, left with just 3 or 4 very heavily damaged. And that little run by is actually going to sync up with some other Mantis coming around the back, and indeed the back of Luzen's base right in the corner here has been hit as well. So Zlord actually making very good use of that early tech, those hoplites holding that push on the left hand side and allowing that Mantis spam to push up round the top. So very nice play, very confident play indeed from Zlord, and against Luzen that is no easy feat, believe me. And of course the field engineers with their little gun, you've got to love them, so underutilized, just absolutely going to town on those Mantis. Go on, son! And that will be the end of that little push of Mantis on the left hand side, but there's a pretty significant force that has come around the back, and they've lined up a nice frontal rank and file, but they don't want to stand there. They're going to get Loboed to death, although Corsair's coming in now for Zlord, and it's looking like not only is he favourite on the ground at the moment, Zlord, but he's also possibly got the air advantage as well. And with 5 fighter bombers in the mix. That could be dangerous for Luzen. Indeed, that looks like the air advantage is now firmly in Luzen's favor. There is a push happening down here. Sorry, firmly in Zlord's favor, but there is a push happening down here from Luzen. But these Corsairs, relatively unchallenged, except for the air cleaners, which will decimate them, of course, if they spend too much time with them. One that goes down there and another one as well. So he has got the stationary anti-air he needs to hold this area, which is good. But he's having to rely on mobile and T1 anti-air down here. He can get some bangers out from the T2 factory. Actually, looks like he's upgrading that. So he's going straight for T3, Luzen, which is good. That will give him a tech advantage. But, of course, that means he's been out of luck when it comes to producing T2 units for a while. But this is a pretty significant push happening over here on the right-hand side for Luzen. Zlord's just getting up some Cerberus turrets, so he's got the T2 upgrade or T2 building suite on his commander, and that should help him hold this area. He's going to lose a few mass points, that is inevitable. He's got a whole bunch of Cerberuses, in fact, so that is going to have to be called off, that little attack there from Luzen. And you can't help but be impressed by Zlord's tenacity here. It looked for a minute like Luzen in the early game was going to get the initiative with that little push happening down here, but that thanks to that early tech, and he hasn't overdone it either. He hasn't pushed out for any T3, although that might possibly hurt him in the later game. He is just focused on building as many hoplites as he can get his hands on, and they're now just strolling up towards the main front. So he wants to reclaim this upper section. A huge strafe by these Corsairs. Looks like he's got about 6 or 7 of them. He should be able to do some damage with that. Has managed to secure this upper plateau as well as Zlord, finally, after all of the harassment that's been happening at the most beginning of the game. And those Corsairs now just going to town on these little groups of units from Luzen. Luzen not wanting to mess around with them. He's just going to push on this left-hand side. Of course, the problem is he's got very little in the way of defense over here on the right-hand side of his base. And if this completely crumbles, it could leave the door open for Zlord. So he does need to watch out for that. He's managed to get a triad up, which is going to be pretty useful, but the amount of air he's got, that just gets taken down immediately, so it turns out not very useful at all. And those hoplites now just trying to pursue this little group. To be honest, he should be pushing straight into the base. I think if he goes now, he could potentially secure a victory. I mean, he's got a whole lot of anti-air, but no triads in the base whatsoever. And I think this is a slight mistake from Zlord. He's got so much air coverage, he could easily send in a scout. He is pushing up with a whole lot of plain Mantis, but the damage he could do with those rocket bots, he really should think about sending them in. I guess he feels like he doesn't need it. He's got this little throwaway force. He doesn't want to expose his hoplites to any more potential fire than he has to. Now he's certain that there is a way in. He's seen it. He's going to send them in behind the Mantis. This could be real trouble for Luzen, who needs to get some defenses up or some units out immediately. And the Titans come out at exactly the right time. That couldn't have been better timing. Another one is nearly done. So very, very nice. I hate to say lucky, because Luzen is one of those guys that the more he practices, the luckier he gets. So I'm not going to say that was luck, but should we say perfect timing? For whatever reason. Wants to engage them though before they get into the back of his base. Doesn't want to lose any of these mass points, being as they're giving him such fantastic bonuses on those factories. And a costly mistake there from Zlord, sending those Corsairs over a huge set of skyboxers. Sorry, not bangers, I was calling them earlier. I'm getting confused between the races. Huge set of skyboxers, just knocking out almost all of those. And he could have been up to about 15 of those now, but it looked like he lost about 7 or 8 of them in that little engagement, just to those group of 4 or 5, and they can be so deadly, especially against those slower T2 units. You know, they don't have that much effect on the T1, but certainly on the T2, sorry, T3, but certainly on the T2, they certainly do all kinds of damage. So I've got a little bit of a drop happening. Doesn't want to push too hard. He's going to run directly into a whole group of interceptors who are going to take off and shoot that down if he's not watching. Although he's just going to have time to get that off. I think he does. So that is 6 Mantis landing on the edge, and unless he Luzen gets some anti-ground PD up. Awesome units producing out of this. He's probably going to lose this little plateau, so he needs to get on that, although he will probably be aware of it since he has just seen that. But this is a pretty significant push happening now on the bottom for Luzen. Huge quantity of strikers. Don't see many Lobos in there, but oh yeah, there are some Lobos, but we've also got some archers, the T1 anti-air in there, so trying to offer some protection. In fact, he has broken off half of them, sending them back to deal with this push that's coming down the center from Zlord, but definitely wants to try and take out the rear guard of Zlord's base. Zlord has anticipated this, has got some point defense up, and has been building some wall sections, but hasn't got that quite as ready as he would like to do. I think he's going to run into some trouble. He's probably not going to be able to hold that. Has got a factory at the back here and is producing Mantis out of it, but I think that's going to be too little too late. Now happening on the left-hand side of Luzen's base is a little run-by, but now that Luzen has T through ground, those Titans are just going to make short work of those little hordes of Mantis that have been working so well for Zlord over the course of this game. So he needs to reformat his strategy, I would assess. He has got these hoplites. They're obviously scared of this one Titan sitting in the middle. Titans are incredibly fast, of course. They can chase down almost anything. And that is all Zlord needs. Titans with extra shield coverage. And those little band of Mantis aren't going to be able to do anything against that. We have got TAC missiles coming in as well. Where is that being launched from? It looks like over here somewhere. Where that was coming from. Answers on a postcard. No idea. Coming from somewhere, put it that way. Oh, okay, here we go. T3 mobile missile platforms. There we go. So they're not T2 stationary TAC missiles, but T3 mobiles. And some pretty nice radar coverage and some pretty bad radar coverage there from Luzen. Walked his Titans right past that horde of rocket bots, and they saw him coming and promptly marched straight up and dealt with some of that mass. Take a quick look at the economies to see how they're doing. So Luzen is sitting on what's he on? Looks like he's on 132, and Zlord is on 111. So quite surprising. I did expect Zlord to be ahead, but actually when you think about it, it's bisected down the middle, and although he's knocked these mass points out of possession from Luzen, he hasn't capped them himself, so he needs to get on this. Zlord has picked up around coming up to 17,000 mass on the reclaim, and only 14,000 for Luzen. But the bonus, hang on a sec, did I just see, so I do beg your pardon, that was a huge amount of reclaim he was doing at one time. Luzen is on 83 mass, and Zlord is on 60 something, so pretty significantly lower amounts of mass than I first stated, so I do apologize for getting that wrong, but it's so very difficult when they're reclaiming so much to see what the actual values are. But little Titan drop over here on the right hand side, and I don't think Zlord is going to be able to do anything about that. That is going to take out all 3 mass points and those 2 factories. He's just pumping as many engineers out as he can, which is definitely the right maneuver at this stage, I think, just so he can keep something back, take it out. But a very nice little strafe there from the Corsairs takes out the Titan. They can get back on with building up those mass points once again. But this recently acquired territory from Luzen is going to be lost to this group of Titans, Shields, Lobos, and all sorts of strikers. Very nice little bit of composition there. Still 4 hoplites alive from that earlier band, so things not going too badly. But 3 mobile missile platforms down from a nice strafe there from Zlord. And Luzen exclaiming about the Mantis. Oh my god, the Mantis. And a huge group of engineers just sitting there taking it. Move your move your engineers. Oh man. But those Mantis aren't going to last too long. They're going to get hit in the face a whole bunch of times with some long-range triad fire. So I guess he feels like that really wasn't necessary. He was just going to let the point defense do its job. We are now up to T3 land for Zlord. So those Titans were taking their toll. We've got a whole bunch of bricks coming down the middle And it's probably going to mean that Luzen needs to switch up to Percy's, which he's been doing very nicely. Anticipated, he probably got some decent scouting info. So Percy's out on the field to deal with it, but he's at a pretty significant deficit. We've got 3 bricks to 1 Percy, and nails as Percy's are, they are not that nails. So he wants to stay in range of his base defenses, I think. Probably get inside that shield. Going to get some shot off. Look at the alpha damage, though, on that Percy. So brutal. But I would be microing him back if I was him. He's got another one out, so that should take care of at least 1 brick. There it goes. And another one's going to have to retreat as this group of strikers and this Titan come back into play from the right-hand side. And Zlord very wisely recognizing he can't contend with it. They has got a Ravager up at the front of this little shield section, so that is definitely more firepower than Zlord can contend with his 2 bricks. So he is going to waltz right on out of there backwards towards the center, where he has 2 more bricks waiting. So it might be a little bit of a back and forth happening now. We are getting a bit of a standoff happening here. Point defense creep not being pursued by Luzen on the left-hand side into his base. That's normally something you have when you've got the commander running it, and his commander's way back here focusing on building as much power as he can get his hands on. Obviously going very hardcore into the T3 land. Significant air tech coming out from Luzen at the moment. What have we got down here? We have got T2 air from, obviously, from Zlord, because we've been seeing those Corsairs over the course of the game. And having just got this back section up and running again, he's tried to get a forward point defense to cover the upper direction, but I don't think that T1 is going to hold up against a couple of Titans. I think this is definitely going to go down once again at the back. There's not going to be anything he's going to be able to do with that, unless, of course, Luzen decides to take a holiday right in the middle of this game and just stop his Titans moving, which is a very popular thing to do at this time of year. You know, the weather's getting colder, etc. and so forth. But anyway, at the top right-hand side, we've got a whole bunch of T1 bombers from Luzen. Luzen's usually pretty significantly into his airplay. In fact, I watch quite a lot of Luzen's games, and his airplay is usually the thing that I find turns games around for him. But in this game, Zlord has definitely taken the air advantage, and Luzen hasn't been able to reclaim it. And that may be one of the reasons that Zlord has been able to do as well as he has. We actually have a quantum gateway up here, and I hadn't realized we already have 1 support commander up and running, and he is upgrading. Very interesting. We'll have to see what he's planning on doing there. An upgraded support commander and another one on the way. That could be interesting. You see the amount of power that's requiring. Take a look at what there's minus 480 power, so that is why Luzen has his ACU down here. He's been spamming power up and protecting it with shields. It's obviously very important indeed. So that's nice to see, actually. We don't see enough of support commanders. More often than not, games don't go on this long at this level. They're usually over much sooner because these guys are so good. They find ways of getting to that ACU, or they use their ACU defensively, and then therefore it's on show. But this game careering towards the half an hour mark, as we are 28.5 minutes. And it's great to see support commanders on the field. They don't want to run too far forward. They're going to hit a whole lot of bricks. And look at the amount of fire coming off there. We have got some shield coverage, but that shield coverage is not going to last very long at all. 1 Percy in the mix, but he's going to run back, although it takes a hell of a lot of fire. They're so nails, Percys. You've got to love them. This is why I don't think UEF need a direct fire experimental. Sorry, Squall, but that's just how I feel. I mentioned it in a previous cast that he was like, no, they need one, but I don't think they do. I think the Percys are too good, and also they're defensive. They're not meant to attack. Anyway, answers on a postcard. So that Percy hanging on with 150 hit points. He's going to stay in the mix, and we've got some a little base going up in the center, and this is why support commanders are so good. The build power that they bring to your team. Get that stealth gen up, and now working on a heavy point defense. That Ravager is going to give him some excellent coverage, and as that goes up, take a look at the radius on that. So as long as he can get some radar coverage, which he hasn't actually got at the moment, which is quite surprising. That's because we've got a deceiver in the mix from Zlord, so very nice mix of units there. Totally cloaking his units from radar. Love that. Love to see more of that. And Zlord, well aware that there's obviously going to be a base going up there, having seen the support commanders, he's not even going to attempt it. He's just going to park a whole load of mobile heavy artilleries, the trebuchets, in the center of the map, and he's just going to bombard the living balls out of Luzen's front lines. Currently not focusing on this frontal shield thing, just working on popping these engineers. Probably not actually working intentionally on anything there, just auto-firing at what's nearest. He's stuck a couple down here as well, or is that... I actually see. No, so that's actually T2 heavy artillery, or T2 artillery platforms called the Gunthers. I always thought that was ridiculous. Why on earth would you name an artillery installation a Gunther? I don't know. But they are Cybran. Why would you replace bits of your body with machinery? I don't know. But anyway, support commanders now walking forward very unadvisedly into a hail of plasma fire from those bricks, and one gets absolutely annihilated before Luzen's realize, of course, unlike the ACU, you don't get your support commander is under attack messages. So he has to wait until one gets popped before he's aware of it. But lots of Cybran artillery raining fire down on those front lines now. And I do like that maneuver. He's trying to cut off. If he can cut off this front section and drive a wedge between these two hard points of bases, he might be able to reclaim this left section of the map. Although there are one or two triads in there. Probably wants to get some mobile missile launchers in there and outrange them. Or he's, as I say, he's working very heavily on these artillery pieces. Although they're not the most accurate things in the world. But certainly they will get the job done if necessary. Not sure he wants to walk quite so boldly into all this Ravager fire. It's very bold indeed. He's even getting into range of this back one. But he does manage to take down the shield down with the help of that artillery fire. Now working on the Perseus, ignoring the Ravagers. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out of this on top. Another Percy down. And now it's 3 Ravagers on 4 bricks, and I've got to say I give it to the Ravagers, and I think Zlord feels the same. He's going to back right on out, and look at the build power on that. Those support commanders promptly protecting that Ravager, getting 2 more shield gens up and running without any difficulty whatsoever. So some very nice play from both guys here, and Zlord not wanting to abandon his Corsair play, still working on popping them out, and still it's working for him. He's making sure Luzen doesn't expand into this side, but really he needs to move up himself and start bagging some of these mass points. It's definitely the play he needs to make. And finally some mobile missile launchers are focusing on some of the triads on this side. If he can manage to cut this off and move up and take some of this mass, it would put him in a really, really good situation. Transport's wandering around now. What is that? It's like he's airdropping a Percy into the mix just to snipe the artillery. Very nice. So Luzen, aware of the threat on the left-hand side, doesn't want to lose all of the scattered point defense that he's worked hard to put up. Although, I mean, he's still going to be taking fire from these Gunthers down here, terrifying as they sound. But nonetheless, you know, every little helps. That's how he feels. So he wants to deal with them as best he can. But those Corsairs now making light work of the interceptors that Luzen has sent in to counter them. They're not going to last too long at all as they bunch up very heavily. That's definitely easy to say, though. I think Zlord could do with some more flak around his base. They should not have survived that pass. Just 1 or 2 flak in here would prevent that from happening. You could drift over your base in future, and that kind of thing would cost him his entire planes in one pass. Getting a heavy shield generator up and running now at the back, and concerned about the amount of mobile artillery fire coming off that central plateau from Zlord. Luzen has queued up, or had queued up I should say, a whole bunch of T2 artillery, so wanted to get into some kind of base war. But he's got a Continental out, the T3 transport, and he's going to pick up the commanders. This could be interesting. We'll have to see where he's going. So on the absolute spare of the moment, Luzen deciding on one play and then abandoning it and going for something else entirely. He's taking quite a wide berth around the action here, which suggests he is up to something sneaky. He wants to keep this off the radar as long as possible. Doesn't want it to risk getting shot down. He knows that Zlord doesn't have T3 air, or at least he hasn't seen any yet, so he doesn't want to risk, still all the same, with the Corsairs out, doesn't want to risk it getting shot down, but he's got a pretty good chance of getting in somewhere. And he really is going right round the houses with this. I mean, completely ignoring what's happening on the rest of the battle, because I really do feel like this is the most important thing going on. And he's just passed over, and it's actually due to drop off right in the back of Zlord's base. Beautiful. Now, will Zlord recognize the threat? It's going to be too late. They're going to make landfall. Whatever happens to the Continental now, it will not matter. And 3 support commanders at the back of your base spells absolute trouble. We know that at least one of them was upgraded, we saw earlier. Corsairs coming in to try and deal with them. But those support commanders working on the mass points initially, but going straight for some flak, judging that the only thing that can really deal with them at the moment are the Corsairs. He wants to shoot them out of the sky, and that flak needs to get taken out if Zlord has any chance of saving his base. One starting work on T1 point defense, another going for another T1 point defense, going to use those to help take down the rest of the crap at the back of Zlord's base. That flak does go down. Luzen now also has made the transition up to T3. He has 3 ASFs in the area helping deal with that, and Zlord has been absolutely outplayed, and he just says, oh, you've got to love it. I love that play. And oh, Luzen is too good at this game. That's all I'm going to say. If I'd have tried that, I would have screwed that up so bad. Zlord bringing his ACU back to his base to try and do something about it. And do excuse me as I've just got to hock up a lung. Been fighting a cold for days now, but it's nearly done. And games like this, like a very spicy curry, do help. So many shields going up, it's unreal, and that is going to be the end. There's nothing he's going to be able to do about this. Needs to send these bricks in if he's going to have any chance. But you just imagine it's going to be rows and rows of point defense going up now, and they're going to be nicely defended. They've even got a SAM up now. And Luzen, once again, wins with an airplay. Not a conventional airplay, but an airplay nonetheless. Definitely needs to get in there and stop this Ravager going up, but I don't know if he's going to manage it with 3 triads up and running. Actually, the one shield goes down. Those T2 shields really don't hold a great deal of hit points on them, but I think it will be enough. And now that one Ravager is online, I really don't see any way back for Luzen in this one. And his base is just going to get absolutely obliterated from the back. He has managed to retarget those T2 artillery, but I just don't think he has enough. Triads and Ravagers going to town. Needs to focus on the power, at least I would. He's actually going after some TAC missiles at the moment. And we've got strap bombers coming in as well. One T2 power plant going down, damaging all of the factories around it. Another Continental coming in, this time with a whole load of what look like Percivals. Yes, they are. And Zlord is in all kinds of trouble. Strap bombs coming in. Just what was a valiant defense, or a valiant game from Zlord. It wasn't even a defense. He was going pound for pound. Amazing how quickly things can turn. And while all of the focus has been on taking out this troublesome fire base that has been erected in the back of his own, Zlord is now under heavy attack at the front, or he has been. To be fair, he has bested that rather well, but I think the damage is done at this point. Look at Luzen reacquiring the top of the map up here. Amazed actually how quickly those Percys died, and what they died to. That was probably a very timely overcharge that I missed while they were all grouped up. Look at the tightly knit, look at that grouping, man. Tightly knit pile of corpses. Working very nicely indeed. So, last PD goes down, and the SAM not far over after it. Zlord does reclaim the back of his base, but I think he's just lost far too much map control to do anything about it now. And we've got support commanders on the ridge, and some captured cyber and tech. I love it. Not even an engineer, a whole factory just turned over. That's humiliating. But I got to say, Zlord, you have so far given Luzen a better fight than anyone I can remember. Well, of course, the Brains did very well, we're talking about. But 1v1, Luzen is horrible to go up against. And I've got to say, this Lord has been playing out of his skin in this game. Hope to see a lot more from this guy. We've got another transport with a whole bunch of Percys. It's not a Continental this time, it's just a T2 running over to the right hand side. There's a whole lot of stuff down here, scattered kind of point defense. We've got some energy storage, make sure he's got lots of energy for the overcharge, lots of Cerberus turrets, all that kind of jazz. It'd be interesting to see where it's going. Looks like it could be going right round the back, but I think at this point it would take an absolute miracle for Zlord to pull this one out of the grave. Is this going to fly only over any kind of anti-air? I'm not sure it's going to, but it does manage to get the 3 Percys off. Excuse me. That transport does go down to the Corsairs, but the Percys managed to make landfall and are going to go to town on all the local mass points. Luzen does have ASFs over here. It's not too willing to help out these Percys. I would if I was him, because they are in pretty good position. But interesting, he's building a whole bunch of T1 bombers, which is unusual at this stage of the game. I guess he's going to use them to work on engineers and mass points and stuff like that. Take out a whole group of T2 engineers there. They're just going around reclaiming. That's just rude, man. That's just mean, man. But away he goes, reclaiming stuff, and probably going to go building, or at least he would do until he got absolutely destroyed by a bombing run. Oh, I thought he was going to survive there for a minute. And Luzen finally gets his ASFs on the case, taking down those Corsairs. Got some SAM sites up here for Zlord, but damage I think will be done. Zlord is rushing up a megalith. It'd be interesting to see if anything happens with that. We've also got a fat boy over here on the left hand side for Luzen, and I would imagine that's going to be done before the megalith. But the amount of map control Luzen's got, he's now got a single broadsword out, just doing the work that he needs to do. He's got it covered with all of his old obsolete T1 inties, but I don't think there's anything really he could do to stop it. He's got a couple of Corsairs out, but they'll just get insta-popped by the ASFs if he tries to use them. In fact, Luzen's just going to throw away his inties by sending them over Zlord's base, but also engaging the Corsairs, getting rid of them at the same time. That Corsair is coming in to try and put some damage on that broadsword, but it's not going to get anything done. Broadsword's far too tough. In fact, it looked like he missed, if that's even possible. Excuse me. But these Cerberus turrets that have been painstakingly erected by Zlord in the early stages of this game are going down one by one. And that broadsword's going to get a lot of kills, because I don't see any real way he's going to be able to deal with that. Could do with getting some mobile flak maybe and rolling it up there, but with the amount of land units that Luzen has, I mean, there's a pretty big open space on this side, to be fair. Luzen's just using air to control it at the moment. But little group of Percys coming over on the left-hand side could cause trouble, but this base is actually quite nasty. We've got quite a few T2PD in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 T2PD and 4 Gunthers, the T2 artillery. So not too bad. He's also got some mobile missile launchers in there, but they're not going to be too great against Percys. Just look at that Percy just shrugging up off all that Cerberus fire. I really do think Cerberus turrets are terrible. Far too weak. Absolutely nailed. He could just walk into that base, which I think he's probably going to do. Whoops, excuse me. Pressing all kinds of strange buttons there. Shield goes down. Some bricks coming into the fray as well, so that's going to give him some assistance, but I think he's going to at least lose the Cerberus turrets, although he has changed to the bricks. Still 3 Cerberus turrets there. But you look at what those Percys went up against there and walked away from. Well, one of them did. Hero Steve. He walked away from it unchallenged. He's fine. But really, it seems like just a question of time now. We've got a Fat Boy online for Luzen, rolling out from this base on the left-hand side, and that is going to outrange anything Slord's got. He has got his Megalith online, and as soon as he realizes that that Fat Boy is a threat, or that it's there, he's going to have to go straight after it. So Luzen will have just spotted that Megalith. He will know it's there. He won't run his Fat Boy closer than he has to. Indeed, he turns it immediately round to not move it in closer than is safe. That Fat Boy just opening fire now on this little group of bricks as they stray out of range. Primary target for Luzen now really has to be that Megalith, and indeed Broadsword's coming in, and Fat Boy focusing fire on that experimental now, wanting to take it down. Zord calls out GG. He knows it's over to all intents and purposes. There is no way out from here. Luzen has had far too much of the map for far too long, and Luzen credits his opponent, as well he should. That was a very hard fought match as we passed the 45-minute mark. Very good fun to watch. Indeed, it must have been fun to play. And Slord trying to chase down that Fat Boy, popping Percy's as he can. But that Megalith has booked his seat at the show inside the pearly gates. There he goes. Good effort, my son. Well, that was a tough call. Percy standing ill-advisedly out of range, or out of their own range from the Cerberus turrets, but eventually moving forward once again. Luzen just needs to get some units in range now. I don't think there's enough left in terms of resistance, and indeed Slord knows it's over. He promptly control K's his entire base and his commander. Very well played indeed, guys. That was incredibly fun to watch. I can see why TA sent it to me. But as I say, hope you enjoyed it, guys, and I'm always on the lookout for replays. I know I say this every time, but please keep those replays coming. And if you've just watched this and you don't know what it is, and you don't know what I'm talking about, this is Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. It is available on Steam for £10 or whatever the equivalent is in your local currency. So feel free to give it a go, and if you do, just download the FAF client, which is inside the description to my video below, and come and join us on the multiplayer section. We'd love to see you. Anyway, that's enough from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. I will catch you later. This is Gyle signing out.